Let's get into it. This is an odd episode of the podcast. JRE, Joe Rogan, he does the MMA show. And I'm always somebody who tells the audience, because, the one thing I would love for everybody to do is watch Joe Rogan's podcast. It's fantastic. But a lot of people always skip over the MMA show. They see names that they don't really know. It's going to be MMA focused. They're not really interested in it. And I always tell people, there's always nuggets stored away in those episodes. The personality of the fighters. There's just so much to it sometimes. Sometimes they have crazy stories. This was a little different. But it was a JRE first. We have never had any. We had Patrick Bet-David come with gifts. Lenny Bruce's microphone, which is worth millions of dollars, in my opinion. JFK signed things, all sorts of gifts, paintings people have had for Joe, 1,000-year-old, teeth, mammoth teeth, arrowheads, all sorts of things Joe has gotten. And plus, in his studio, in this massive compound, there is a section just for art. It's like a museum. It's very, very odd because there's so many people that send him art. But there's a first in this episode. Somebody actually brings $1 million. Mr. Craig Jones brings $1 million. And I think he thought that this was going to be a giant flex. I think he thought this was going to be an Arnold back in the day, pumped full of juice flex. But he's doing it in front of Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan is almost a billionaire. So it didn't hit quite the way he thought. And Jamie could care less about any guest, I think. So let's just get right into it and see what this guy has to say.
You guys do that.
Help my hearing. Hey, it's fading in my old age.
Do you have fucked up ears because of the cauliflower? Does it fuck up your hearing?
Yeah, just one of them. I thought it was cool until the inner ear started to swell and it was messing with my hearing. And I was like, that's not cool anymore.
Did you get it fixed?
I just face it at the women I'm talking to.
Did you get it fixed or it
eventually drained out, but it's as good as it's going to get, I think.
Yeah, I always wore ear guards. I was always scared of the ears because there's a design. Like it helps capture sound and bring it into your ear.
I didn't know the AirPods were coming. That threw a curveball in how cool this was.
Oh, right, because you can't stuff them in there.
I jam them in, but they pop back out.
Yeah, you got to wear it over the ears. So let's talk about your tournament.
The tournament, all right.
Where did this come from, first of all? Because you've competed at Abu Dhabi. This is what I don't understand. You're gonna go head to head with ADCC, which is the biggest grappling organization in the world. By the way, that's Gordon Ryan's belt up there. If you want to look at it.
Gordon Ryan. Oh man, I might take that home with me. Yeah, I reckon I got the money to buy it. Well, I mean, what started it? Well, obviously you can't win a tournament. You put your own tournament on that you can win, and probably lose anyway. I mean, really, it's for the growth of the sport. We're getting some beef involved, some Tupac Biggie, Drake Kendrick energy to this, but really to compensate the athletes well and to raise some money for charity along the way.
And who's funding this thing?
That's one of those things, your girl takes a trip to the UAE, she comes back with a handbag, you don't talk about it, you don't ask too many questions,
You brought with you $1 million in cash, which I've never seen before. I've never seen $1 million in one place. I've never even seen $1 million check.
Should we tip this out?
Yeah, I guess tip it out. Let's make sure we don't spill any. Ladies and gentlemen, that is $1 million in cash.
All stays.
That is so ridiculous. Look at that. That's so crazy. Wow. Whoever is running this really trusts you.
They should.
Those are loose. They're like a lot of these are just kind of flying around.
Flopping around here, They have way too much faith in me.
Yeah, a lot of faith in you.
I mean, this was to prove it. I had the idea. I was like, I'll bring a prop $1 million on Joe Rogan, but I was thinking then they already don't believe I have the money. So if I pulled out a prop $1 million and you were like, oh, that's fake money, then I'm like, oh, my tournament's fucked. So we had to do some bad things for that.
So how does one even get $1 million out of a bank? That's got to be a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah. So my buddy that's helping me out with this basically called his bank. He said, I need $1 million on Thursday. They said, yo, that takes 2 to 3 weeks. And he's like, get me the $1 million on Thursday or I'll find a bank that can. And that put the energy in him to get it. Here we are.
So what does this guy do that he has all this loot?
I really don't want to say. I'm going to keep it all directed at me. It's all above board legal, you know what I mean? But we're sort of keeping it mysterious. I want any negative energy towards the tournament come in my direction, not the anonymous sugar daddy in the background.
Okay. So you don't want to say like what the business is, or does the business profit off of this at all? Does this benefit the business to do this? whatever you're doing?
I mean, we're running it as a non-profit. So, like, obviously for people that want to support the sport of jiu-jitsu, like, we're going to donate basically all the ticket sales of this event towards different charities. So we really want to do this as a non-profit. Because my thoughts were, if jiu-jitsu doesn't make a profit, we might as well make a non-profit.
Okay. Well, does jiu-jitsu make no profit? Like, Abu Dhabi doesn't turn a profit, right? It's done primarily because of the sheikh's love of the sport.
It's like a passion project. But I mean, sort of, my problem with the latest event is, like, we're selling so many tickets. And their event is in T-Mobile. Mm-hmm. T-Mobile's super expensive. As far as I know, I remember their event organizer posted the amount they paid for T-Mobile. And it was basically 2 of these. So I was
just to rent out the venue.
Just to rent out,
and then you were at the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah. So the previous event they were at Thomas and Mack. So I just thought, hey, I might as well check how much Thomas and Mack costs, and it was a lot cheaper. So in my opinion, we're really doing this because the prize money's been the same for so long. A lot of events don't pay a lot of money, but obviously ADCC is the biggest,
right?
And this sells a lot of ticket sales, but really, they made a lateral move in the venue that didn't really grow much in the way of seating, and none of that money really.
How much does Thomas and Mack seat?
I think we'll have about 11,000 seats for this one.
And T-Mobile's what, 18?
I think 18, yeah. So not massive difference. And really, ADCC prize money stayed the same. So their prize money, you have to win 4 matches to get 10K. Not that I'd know because I could never fucking win it. But we're going to do 2 divisions and pay 100 times that amount of money to the division winners.
So 10K is the winner of ADCC.
And we're going to pay $10,001 to show up to that tournament.
$10,001?
We'll throw an extra $1. That's for me personally.
So anybody who competes gets $10,000? Really? So even if you just get smoked?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of the other guys like me in these tournaments that don't make the final, compensate everyone, you know?
Well, that is nice, but ADCC's never made money, right? So for them, raising the money would just be losing more money.
Yeah, I mean, but if you could sell 11,000 seats, you know what I mean? Like, if you could sell streaming rights to an event, I feel like some of that should go back towards the athletes rather than just spending it all on production. Like, a lot of people talk about the cost of production and it's important to grow a sport, but I really feel like at least the athlete compensation should go up a little bit. You know, like, in terms of ticket sales, some of that should go back towards the athletes.
Even if the ADCC is not making any money at all?
But in terms of, they do make money, but it's where they spend it. They choose to spend it on production rather than the athletes.
Right, but it's not profitable. Like, it's, in terms of the organization itself, is not really profitable, I don't believe.
Well, I would imagine if they had chose Thomas and Mack with the streaming rights and the cost of the venue like that they've spent on T-Mobile, for sure they would have made a profit off this event. You could curtail production costs down. Like, it's not going to be that crazy if you choose the right venue. My opinion is grappling's amazing, but I don't think we're ready for T-Mobile. That's a massive, expensive venue.
Right. Well, the Thomas and Mack was very impressive last year. It was very impressive, the whole overall production and just the scope of it and the amount of fans that came out to watch ADCC. It was pretty impressive.
It's crazy, yeah. It's crazy. Obviously,
yeah.
I've never competed in front of that many people before. It was awesome.
Well, there you have it. When you do not have much personality, the best thing that you can do, if you can afford it, is to pull out $1 million in cash. This is a move usually used by rappers. More often than not, rappers like to use this move. They walk in with briefcases filled with money, and it's supposed to be very impressive, and all the young ladies with daddy issues flock towards these men, and they feel like, I'm really somebody. Don't get me wrong. This Craig guy could be a great guy. Seems a little funny. You know, I watched the whole podcast. It's only 2 hours, which is also a warning sign. Okay. I will say, always check out the MMA show, but if you see a JRE episode that is 2 hours, it's not a good sign. I'm just saying, it's not a good sign. You can test this theory. I have tested over and over and over again. You know, when you see 4 hours, it's going to be a banger. You got to know when you see 2 hours, it's not going to be that good, with the exception of Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx did, I think, like an hour and a half, maybe even less. But Jamie Foxx is funny. So he filled it. He filled it well. He did his thing. That's the only exception. Nobody, everybody else that's 2 hours and below, terrible episodes. That's the one thing, if you're ever on Joe Rogan's podcast, because there's enough people that watch this that one of you might be on the show one day. Okay? It's not an impossibility. You got to make sure you go for 3 hours. Get them drunk or something, get them high or something. You got to go for it. It'll change your life. 4 hour JRE episode will change your life. I'm just saying. But it's very interesting that the guy brought $1 million out, and apparently He's been taking pictures with the money as well before he got onto the JRE. This is before, it's just, again, nice guy, but completely the douchiest move I have ever seen on Joe Rogan's podcast. There's nothing else. We had Harlan Williams eating celery the other day. But that's Harlan Williams. He's a gem. He's amazing. So, he's allowed to eat some celery and act like he has a tapeworm and he pulls out some long thing and he says that's his tape. That's Harlan Williams. You gotta make time for that. But this is just, I don't know, man. And honestly, it was a pretty boring episode. And I just went through it all. The main thing that they talked about was jiu-jitsu, which is fine. I'm into hearing about it and hearing the art of it and everything. But they talked about it very, I think what was happening, because if you don't know, there's a jiu-jitsu god and his name is Gordon Ryan. He is just a dominator. He dominates everybody. And apparently Joe is invested in maybe not the fighter, but like where these gentlemen fight. Joe's invested in him and his team in some way. This guy, Craig, is going against that in some way. So it was a very cut and dry episode where he had him on the show, but at the same time, there are some people in the jiu-jitsu community that wouldn't like to see him on the show. So it's like Joe was kind of dry with it, and probably this Craig guy wasn't used to that kind of thing, and I don't know. The whole episode fell flat, and this guy definitely thought the $1 million was just going to be the coolest thing. But you got to remember, Joe knows Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg. And I will say one thing right now. People are speculating that this money right here is actually from Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of people are speculating that. I've been on the forums running around because I was like, how do I cover this episode? This is ridiculous. This is the only thing that really happened. And they talked about Conor McGregor a little bit, but this is the main thing that happened. A lot of people are speculating that it's Mark Zuckerberg because Mark Zuckerberg is very invested into jiu-jitsu. He loves it. He enters tournament, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean. He's entered tournaments. He's won tournaments. He's lost. He's constantly training. It's something that he does every day. He dedicates an hour to a day every day to this type of thing. Within reason, because he's a billionaire and, he's constructing parts of the world that are going to, erode society. So, he always has to do that. He's preparing to become the next George Soros, I'm sure. The next, the next person that we all look at and go, oh, man, it's this terrible person. The next Bill Gates, he's working on that right now. He's still young, so he's on his training wheels still. But I'm sure he'll get there one day where he'll be doing that type of thing. But a lot of people are saying it's Mark Zuckerberg because who else has $1 million to just throw around and also has a love for jiu-jitsu? I don't know. I don't really know. And honestly, don't really care all that much. But I will watch the tournament. It's going to be free on YouTube. So you can stay tuned for that. If you're interested, if you're into jiu-jitsu, it's going to be free on YouTube. So it will be something to watch. This Craig guy is a monster when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm saying all this stuff about him, but believe me, he is not a guy that I want to fight. I have no interest in fighting anybody who has cauliflower ear to the point where they can't put headphones in them anymore. That is a clear warning sign that I do not want any problems with this gentleman. So I'll respect that. I'm saying this from over here. I'm on this side of the desk. That's where I'll keep it with Craig. But yeah, it was just honestly one of the douchiest things that's ever happened on JRE. I can't think of anything else that's happened where somebody was trying to flex on Joe Rogan, who has $500 million and is friends with Elon Musk. I just, nobody else has tried to do that ever. I don't know, man. What do you guys think about somebody bringing $1 million? Do you think it's cool? I really don't think it's cool. Here's the thing. I really don't like the way the hip hop community / black community operates with putting the bag money at the forefront of everything. So somebody could lack integrity. They could do something that's really bad. They could be a criminal, an active criminal. And as long as they're making money, it's all good, and the way that they ride around with money and they throw it and they're on the strip clubs and everything. I don't like that lifestyle. So when I see this guy doing pretty much the same thing, I'm not into it. Not into it whatsoever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole thing. The guy brought $1 million. It's a JRE first, so we had to cover it. We got to cover it. I'm a JRE historian. This has never been done before, but did it really need to even happen? You know what I mean? Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. It all helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.